Today we are going to be talking about the Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle available at ArmoredRepublic.com. It's a very practical kit, including everything that you need all the way from hydration to first aid to general purpose to magazine holders and to a very comfortable plate carrier. So included is the Testudo Gen 3 plate carrier, and we also have 2 C3 plates that I've included in the bundle. So these plates are multi-curve, multi-hit ceramic, so they can take multiple rounds. I really like these plates because it's going to offer level 4 protection. Thank you guys for watching. Again, you can go to ArmoredRepublic.com, linked below, and you can purchase your Kyle Rittenhouse Always Ready bundle today.
Meet Big Ed. He has a tax-funded taste for children. Big Ed knows that the best grooming starts early. He has a plan for your preschoolers, a plan to gender confuse your grade schoolers. But if you think his grooming stops there, you have not been paying attention. Big Ed wants to liberate your daughters from old-fashioned ideas like, well, you already know. Big Ed has dorm rooms ready for you in prison buildings of learning, and professors standing by dedicated to grooming young adults in doubt and unbelief. After all, he is the gatekeeper of this brave new world, and if you want a job, you'll need to pay him with years of your life for a permission slip. Yeah, whatever. You think David paid Goliath for a certificate in giant management before those two squared off? Did Luther major in theses? Was George Washington summa cum laude in empire repellents, while Jefferson focused on ag with a minor in declarations? When the world needs saving, meaningful vocations abound for those who are truly prepared. And the truth is, despite Marxist advances, this is still America, and Big Ed is still a voluntary opt-in. So don't. Not at any level. Not preschool, not middle school, not college. It isn't complicated. When Big Ed offers you free candy, stay away. You'll thank us later. We know it's crazy, but run with us here. Men and women were created in the image of God. You don't need a government certificate of faux learning for personal validation or permission to work. You were born with divine permission to pursue knowledge and understanding, truth, goodness, and beauty. And at New St. Andrews College, we are committed to helping students do just that, to their fullest potential. In an age dominated by chaos, when learning is on a choke leash controlled by Big Ed and his many strange friends, ours is an education for outlaws, an education for men and women committed to building a beautiful and free society in the ruins of the Western world. When thinking is outlawed, only outlaws will think. Yes, Big Ed hates what we do, but his hatred brings us joy. New St. Andrews College. Liberal arts for outlaws. Mind, body, and soul.
All right, last time. Happy New Year. Welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight Laugh Feast Network.
Time?
Yeah, last time. I mean, just kind of, it's the week for us. This is our first show.
From here on out, it's unhappy.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's still going to be good New Year. I just don't need to do the New
You're
Year.
not going to announce the New Year every show after this?
No, that's it.
Till
It's
June.
still 2025.
Yeah. I should
Surprise!
Coming at you.
Like your dad talks about Fridays. I should have a new way of talking about 2025.
It's 2025.
Pastor Toby Talk Knocks. I'm the Waterboy. It's good. And we also have author N.D. Wilson here. This is Notes from the Tilt-A-Whirl and the hardback. And we got Death by Living in the hardback. My favorite book by Nate. Hands down. That's
Thanks, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Death by Living?
I was at a low point.
Yes.
And no, I'm just kidding.
Gabe, we all know.
I'm still at that low point.
We know. For 49 years, Christians have been marching around D.C. each January to call for the end of Roe versus Wade. Now that Roe has fallen and we march for the utter end of abortion, this year we invite you to join us singing psalms and hymns.
Love that.
While we march for the sanctity of life behind a banner reminding our government that Christ is Lord and not they. The 52nd March for Life is on January 24th, 2025. So that's in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For more details,
Right after 4 days after the inauguration.
join the psalm singing troupe at the March for Life. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a psalm singing troupe. If you're interested, email Horace at info@crecannapolis.com. info@crecannapolis.com.
Yeah.
And join the psalm singing troupe at the 52nd March for Life on January 24.
And those are some of our friends, the CREC Annapolis Church. You go to the CRECchurches.org website and still find them too. So either way, be a part of that psalm singing group at March for Life. That's fantastic.
In a world overwhelmed by chaos and confusion, it's time to take a stand. The Built to Conquer Conference. Oh, I read this one. It's another one. Here to help
yours coming, yeah.
families reclaim the spiritual ground that's been lost. We're equipping men and women with tools and resources they need to stand firm against the challenges of our times. This is a full-day Bible conference with the following speakers. Am I going to really read all the names again?
You don't have to. You don't have to.
Go to the website.
Gabe's going to be there.
And I'm going to take everything Nate says in the show and put it in my
talk. Oh,
Perfect.
Okay. Tickets are $50. You can get tickets at calebgordon.org. calebgordon.org.
It's in Oklahoma. I'm excited to see my Oklahoma people.
We know you're
They're
excited.
not excited to see
the
you.
redheaded stepchild of Texas.
Right.
You're going to get jumped. As soon as you
Novelist turned filmmaker, producer, and varsity basketball coach. He is. That's not even a complete sentence. Bree, the opening. It's not a complete sentence.
Thank you for adding that, though, Bree. I appreciate it. A basketball coach should not be in a complete sentence.
He's the best-selling author of the 100 Cupboards trilogy, now in more than 20 languages. What? And of the nationally acclaimed Ashtown Burial series.
Yes.
And
Let's go.
Waiting on volume 4, 5.
Oh, it's coming.
That's
what
coming.
That's what I'm talking about.
And the heart racing Western.
I feel God right there.
The heart racing Western sci-fi Outlaws of Time series.
Yes, let's go.
Which is actually my kid's favorite. Just so
Outlaws
you know.
of Time?
Outlaws of
kids,
Time.
actually.
I try to work on them on the others, and they're like, yeah, they're okay. But we love Outlaws of Time.
They're fine.
Anyways, he's the creator and producer of the book and Netflix show Hello Ninja.
That's one everybody loves.
And he's one half of the Almost Weekly Stories Are Soul Food podcast on the Canon Plus.
Which is fantastic, by the way.
The second best. I like to say I'm the second best host.
Brian's the first best host.
Silver medal.
Hey.
Brian does the work. He shows up with the topics. He literally does everything.
I like how in our community when someone does a controversial podcast, everyone's blamed for it. When we do a controversial podcast, you're blamed for it, or whatever, Doug or whatever. It doesn't matter at this point.
Some of us don't pay any mind to social media, so we don't notice when we're blamed for it. But I did hear that I spread some blame on a lot of other people.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. So you got these new hardbound versions of the books out, which we're excited about, and there's a new trailer. You get that ready? The trailer.
Call it updated.
Okay.
Some people prefer to be cremated instead of buried, but Granddad wanted to be buried.
You are dying. So am I.
You're like 25.
Every second I create more of my past. More decisions, more breathing, more love and more loathing. All of it slides by into the gone as I grab at more moments, at memories just made and already fading. We are all authors, creators of our pasts, authors of the books that will be our lives. When we race across the wet concrete of time without purpose, without laughter and love and sacrifice, then we fail in our mortal moments. See the past, see your life as the fruit of providence and thousands of personal narratives. What led to you? Lighthearted tales of neighborhood love, great tales of migrations, epic tales of global wars and comedies, dark stories about brothers and murder, tales of rape and grief and persecution. You did not choose where to set your feet in time. You choose where to set them next. Pause, breathe, eyes front. See the future. Do not stare into the fog of distant years. See the crystal choices as they race towards you in this sharp foreground we call now. The future flies at you in a never-ending storm of possibilities. God says create. God says live. Choose. Shape the past. Etch your lives in stone, and what you make will be forever. You are dying. So am I. We march from page to page, and it is our living that takes us toward the end. Children will follow, reading our stories, built on our stories, set in a place and in a time that we helped choose for them. They will be the ones to shut the book behind us. They will dig holes and arrange flowers. They will fill out forms. Cause of death, life. May it be the truth.
Cause of death, life.
New editions.
What's the point of the whole Bible?
Kill the dragon, get the girl.
Kill the dragon, get the girl.
Point of the whole Bible.
So, it's a couple things. First of all, I realized that I've been around white people a lot lately. Like last part of my life, because when Gabe started talking in the middle of this, I'm like, shh. And I know, like, I should know that's.
You got to all black theater.
And let me explain this, because if you go to a black theater, nobody cares. Everybody's talking. Gabe is normal there, right? Like and so I know I've been in Idaho for a while when I'm like, hey, be quiet, the thing's playing.
Shut up.
Right? Yeah.
I will say this, my it's a total distraction now, but my very favorite experience in a black theater was watching Oh Brother, Where Art Thou in a very, very crowded theater outside of Baltimore. And it was amazing. First off, the amount of noise that was going on. It was
Yes.
like, I really enjoyed the experience of it right up until we got to the KKK scene. And then my roommate and I were dying, and the theater was silent. It was like the whole theater was like, I don't know where they're going with that.
We need to watch.
We gotta
make sure we got. Hey, be quiet, be quiet.
We got to reserve. And I was weeping. I mean, I was laughing myself sick while they're all like humping, just dragging guys around and get a little beat going.
Oh my goodness.
Man,
Anyway.
So just real quick, something on this book. When I became post-millennial, during the process of that and leaving kind of my dispensational world, one of the problems that I had with the post-millennial guys is, if you're going to take away my worldview from me, you got to replace it with something, because that was my end time theology, what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And so I was getting ready to get raptured out of here. I was planning for that. I'm getting everything together to get raptured. And y'all gonna tell me there ain't no rapture. You better tell me then what's coming.
What we doing?
Right. What are we about to do? Because this is gonna get real interesting. And it wasn't until I read Death by Living that it kind of just filled in all the holes for me.
Awesome.
And it was like, oh, this is life actually. This is what it's supposed to be. Oh, I get it. And so if you're making that transition, I can't recommend this book enough. Go get Death by Living. It's a fantastic book. Read it once a year. So thank you for that, Nate. I don't think I've ever told you that.
That's
It was
awesome.
really good.
So we're living in this crazy moment.
Yes.
So Trump's elected. Elon's doing his thing.
Yep.
Zuckerberg might be on our team now.
I wouldn't
For
go
a
that- I
minute.
wouldn't go that far.
Well, at least for a moment.
Yeah.
Same way RFK is, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
LA burns down.
Yeah, I mean, all this stuff. And of course, we've got responsibilities to be thoughtful and paying attention to some extent. But maybe one way to ask this question would be, how does Death by Living apply in this moment?
The thing that's great about biblical principles and about trying to live faithfully in any moment ever is that it is so freeing to have such clarity of purpose and approach when you are overwhelmed with macro chaos. And so when you have a world that's swirling with chaos, it's really important to realize that God didn't put you in charge of that.
Yeah.
He didn't put you in charge of sorting that out.
Right.
He didn't put you in charge of solving any conspiracy theories. He just didn't. He did put you in charge of stuff, though.
Right.
It's like there's
That's
plenty.
your job.
There's plenty of stuff he put you in charge of.
I see you gonna need that right there. That's you warming up. You warming up.
It did happen. He did give you scenes and moments and days and all this dialogue to write. And I've heard from so many people, it's like, yeah, you're artistic. You like emphasize stories. And I get that, but I'm not really that way. And it's like, well, but do you exist?
Right.
And if you exist, you've been given the hardest homework any human can be given, which is the real-time construction of scenes and dialogue without any edits, etched into stone, into perpetuity, with no looking back. It's only eyes front. So I get to do multiple drafts of this. Mm-hmm. I don't get to do multiple drafts of today. Mm-hmm. I don't get to do multiple drafts of this conversation. And I'm writing dialogue real time right now. This is improv.
Right.
You know? So all of us are required to improv.
Right.
And we're all supposed to improv from principles, you know, from faithfulness, from scripture, from God. And so if you've been given any other human being in your life, then you're writing dialogue, you're writing scenes, you're being a character, you're crafting your own character, you're influencing characters around you, you're writing stories. And it's not our job to figure out who did what to the Federal Reserve 70 years ago. It's not our job to solve the drones in Jersey. If one's over your house, great. You know,
shoot it down.
Take it out.
Write that story.
Write that story. Write that story. Write that story well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if it's coming to you, if this is what God gave you, these are your scenes.
Right.
Then that's what you do.
If you live in LA right now, then you've got
some pretty you got responsibilities. You got some brutal scenes,
right.
And it's playing out for a lot of Christians the way it's played out in other disasters where the Christians are there and they're helping and the state is not, and, and FEMA's absent. Same thing happened in North Carolina.
Right.
If you are Gabe and you're at a psalm saying and the cops start putting the cuffs on, got an interesting scene right now. This is interesting.
Yes.
I almost wrote that one wrong.
Yeah.
Praise God for a church.
So the point is that it's really easy in times of chaos to take your eye off the ball and off your own homework. And it's just not our job. Trump's got some pretty wild homework. He's got some wild homework to do.
Right.
Elon's got some wild homework to do. And
so do you think it's his job, Trump's job, to go back and Judify,
I like Judify.
Yeah,
whatever
I know.
That's cool. We can work with that.
Re-adjudicate like January 6th.
Kind of anti-Semitic.
Yeah, right. Let's work with it.
This will probably be online next week. Just so you know.
Inside the algorithm.
Anyway.
January 6th and some of those things that have happened in the past.
Adjudicate, I think.
Re-adjudicate. I said that when we were all making fun of me at this point.
No, I think pardons. I would just like, let's be done. And I think basically declassifying a lot around that narrative would be good. I think truth and honesty is a good thing. So declassifying a lot of what was going on, that's already happening some. And then a lot of pardons would be great.
So one of the things I've thought about that could happen in 2025 is God could actually show a lot of our dirty laundry, as dark as it is, kind of dirty laundry.
Yeah.
So potential like Epstein files could be released. You know, Diddy. There's a lot of darkness. Even JFK potentially could be released and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so I think God could totally reveal some deeper, darker sin that we don't really see on the surface in America. And I think America, it's like what's happening in Great Britain right now. You got, these Palestinian rape parties that have been going on. And apparently when the cops show up, they arrest the drunk 13-year-olds and not deal with the Palestinian rape parties. And so one of the things I'm wondering about is, is America even in a situation where if we saw a real dirty, ugly sin, would we repent? Would it affect us? Would it, change us?
Not right now. I mean, the simple fact is that we're kind of numb to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we are numb. And so the Epstein list is going to be like, okay.
We knew that.
Yeah. Look at how much it didn't matter that RFK was cheating on his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Just like, okay. Whatever. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. And the conservatives are like, cool. Just moves on. It's not like anybody thinks Trump is moral. So we've moved on. There's a numbness to that stuff. And the more that we see it, the more Diddy and Epstein and other things all drop. It's kind of like, whatever.
But was it a numbness because, like, I'd say on my side, on my political side of things, the Conservative Party to me had been again and again like abandoning their principles, and I got numb that way.
Yeah, well,
and then Diddy happens or Trump happens.
The thing is that the numbness manifests as conservative Christians being outraged and hoping that something really resonates with the population, that they'll turn now, they'll wake up now. It's like, actually, no. Those calluses are thick.
Mm-hmm.
Those consciences are seared.
Wow, we trade in outrage.
Yeah.
Right.
And so when we try to get that outrage going and we're sitting there shocked that we can't get it going anymore, it's like we need stronger weed. We've been smoking this for
we need that ooh.
We got to get up. This gateway
now.
drug, we got to take it up a notch in order to get the buzz again. So the level of outrage takes things like LA burning down.
Mm-hmm.
Like Los Angeles has to burn down for people to be like, wait. We had government mismanagement. It's like, oh, really? Is this?
I see it now.
You're finding this out now?
Yeah.
And then the thing that's going to be interesting is how quickly everybody outside of LA forgets that. Just like they have North Carolina.
Yeah.
And
like
elects their next Democrat governor.
Yeah. And so Trump is actually really good at this. And so when he plays the game, he loves to launch these missiles like deep behind enemy lines and freak people out and then do what he wants to do. So I'm renaming the Gulf of Mexico, and everybody's like,
Gulf of America.
And everybody goes and runs over there. It's like, well, he announced that he was going to be discharging 15,000 trans service members on day one.
Yeah,
that was the outrage a few days ago, and now he's just going to do it, and everybody's going to be distracted by Greenland,
right?
Yeah.
Or whatever he's doing then.
Right.
So do you think I agree with you that he does that, and that's one of my thoughts on Greenland and Gulf of America and all this stuff in Panama Canal and all that. Although I think he might act.
Oh, we're getting Greenland and we're getting Panama. That's just happening.
Yeah. Right.
Wow. You think so, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to.
So should we start a CREC church in Greenland?
Eventually, for the 45,000 people? I don't know, polar bear outreach, but it's.
It's taking dominion. We'll take dominion over
the thing that's interesting, though, in all of this is that stuff's all fun and interesting, and it's weird and it's wild, and it's gonna be a time. Like the first 2 years, especially, are gonna be really interesting, and it's gonna be so easy to take our eye off the ball that we're being pitched.
Yep.
And to be just a worse dad, a worse father.
That's right.
Because you're just reading a bunch of crap on Twitter and all this unverifiable whatever. And you don't have any possibility of firsthand access. You don't have any chance of adjudicating this or judifying it.
Or
you don't have any chance at that. And so, but you're willing to be distracted because it is feeding your laziness. It feels important.
Yeah.
And so it's a nice excuse to take you away from the work of your life and from being faithful.
And the things that matter.
Yeah, the things that are lasting that matter. One of the things that's funny for me watching that trailer, because I am young, is seeing my kids in there and being like, oh, wow, like what has Rory gone on to do?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like there's that little kid at his great grandfather's funeral, and this is the kid who stood at Hamilton Hall up against, the pro-Hamas mob.
Right.
In New York. This is the kid who got, cuffed and thrown on the sidewalk protesting your arrest.
Right.
3 years of legal everything. When you're investing in creating characters, you do not know what their stories are going to be or what you have to prepare them for. But what you do have to prepare them for is faithfulness, like absolute faithfulness in any circumstances at any time. And we don't know what's around the corner. So the people who are trying to teach their boys good life lessons in 1939, like those people who are trying to instill character and virtue and courage and all that stuff right there, they had no idea.
Right.
Because he might have to take France back.
Right.
From the Nazis. This dude might have to crawl through intestines up a beach to take out a machine gun nest. You don't know.
Yeah.
So like when we're raising our kids and we've been given these moments of peace, these moments of calm to try to invest in them and craft these people, these characters.
That's the ball you're talking about that's being pitched is the families that we have in front of us right
now.
All
the relationships in your life. Everybody, including the person at the grocery store, matters more than any conspiracy theory. Yeah. The person in line next to you that you might just barely greet, or help out with a buck when they're short, that matters more than, solving some conspiracy theory, because that's the story that got given to you right now. Don't pooch it.
I want to ask you two questions to drill down on this. One for husbands and wives, and one's for parents.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the ball. Like you're saying, that's the center of it. Obviously, you got neighbors, you got parents,
other human
beings around you. But let's just put the bullseye at the center, the people you live with. What's the biggest mistake you see young husbands and wives making?
That you made.
Yeah.
And maybe it made me different. Maybe different for husband.
Yeah,
different for
I
wife.
don't think that it's really. I don't think it's really like sexy. I don't think that it's unique I think it's pretty simple. And people, young people especially, and people who are getting married, struggle with self-absorption and selfishness. Mm-hmm. You know, just with the priority of self. And so
I'm gonna have my wife listen to this part.
Exactly. That's what I'm going for.
Illustrating it here.
So it is really
yeah.
tough,
yeah.
especially early. And if you've lived alone for any amount of time, it's just been reinforced, and not because of deep evil, but just you don't have those muscles.
Mm-hmm.
How do you exist selflessly
Yeah.
in that union? And for people who are newly married, you know, husbands and wives, it's a new thing. And so there's constant friction, or can be constant friction, between the sexes there in that marriage when they have different languages. And, you know, so she can feel unappreciated and he can feel unappreciated extremely easily because she tries to give him the little gold star that would make her happy that he couldn't care less about. And he's trying to give her the space he would love to get.
Right.
You know what? I'm just going to not talk to you right now
because that's what I would like.
Because the golden rule, that's what I'd love more than anything else, is just sit here and not talk.
Well, what's funny about that is like that gets harder because then you guys are working harder as you get older.
Yeah.
And you're giving yourselves for your kids now, and you know,
you're
basketball
mutually sacrificing,
and you're mutually working harder, and
Yep.
you're which means you're drained more.
Yep.
And then you still even more self-absorbed that I need help, I need affection, or I need. It's pretty. Yeah.
And so I'd say young marrieds and then young parents, and it kind of the level of difficulty always goes up. And
right.
God will always. That's one of the themes of Death by Living, is that you're going to live life on a rising scale of difficulty, no matter what. You know, it's like, hey, how about you do it with a worse memory now? How about you do it with insulin resistance? How about you do it with a bad knee? How about you do
sleep?
Less sleep. And it's just that knob gets turned, and then it's how about you do it while you finally realize you're going to die?
Yeah.
Like as you're
finish strong,
as you're falling apart and you're kind of like on the downward slope to the grave. Do it now. Be faithful now. That level of difficulty is always up, and even when it looks to us, very active middle-aged people, it can look like, oh, being that old dude is easy. Oh, really? Like you think being able to see into the grave is easy, and having to like have conversations with people that are relaxed and faithful without having this urgent freak out of going on. All you think that's simple to have all those ailments? Do you think it's simple to say goodbye to different parts of your body permanently into the grave?
Yeah, I don't like this conversation.
It's like it's not. So we go on this rising scale of difficulty. The funny thing is when you're newly married, it feels so difficult. Like, okay, we got to get synced up. We got to get this right. It feels so hard. Now you could look back on that
and you have your first
kid, 6 months, and you're
you
like,
feel like you're gonna break.
That would have been my vacation.
Yeah, that was so easy. That was so easy. And at the time, it was breaking you. And God, that's how God does it. So when the kids show up, and even before the kids, but especially when the kids show up, what you can have is you can have dad at work. Dad is out and he's grinding and he's doing it for his family and he's exhausted and he can't wait to walk in the door and just rest. Mom is at home and she's grinding.
Right.
And she's grinding on the clock and she can't wait for dad to get home so she can rest. And that collision just doesn't go great. Right. And it's, so there you go. Or dad gets to be the fun one.
Yeah.
Mom's been grinding and disciplining all dad, and then dad comes in and is like, woo, gets the shoot guns in the air.
I just said we're not doing that.
Yeah, exactly. I just told him not to jump on the couch. Why'd you throw him on the couch? I'm
just having fun.
Yeah, I'm the fun one. I get to be the fun one. And so as you go up, I think those are the stressors, and it always turns into different questions of, is this about you? Is it about you, or is it not about you? And whether you're new married or you have young kids or you're old, is it about you or is it not about you? And that's always the test. It has different stakes and different consequences at different phases.
So how do you handle, one of the ways of thinking about this, for good or for bad, is we always, we look back in the 1800s, 1900s, look at, no cars, no TV, no electricity, they lived it really hard. And look at us, 2 cars, TV, electricity, air conditioner on the way to road, we have it so much better than them. A lot of it was because they did death by living. A lot of it because they did die for us in a way we could build and innovate. But now we're in a situation where one of the temptations I want my kids to fight and deal with and get rid of very early on in their lives is the kind of apathy that can build in a situation like this.
Yeah.
The comfort that can come from where we're at.
We're all functionally trust fund kids.
Yeah.
And so.
Right. We're the richest planet richest America in the world.
Richest planet, too.
Richest planet. Yeah.
That's true.
That we know.
Yeah.
So how do you, in an environment, and then I would say specifically to us here in Moscow, like your grandpa had to go through challenges in evangelism that we didn't have to go through in some sense. Your dad, was starting, Logos.
Yeah.
And my kids are now fixing to, Lord willing, walk into the first building ever by Logos, right?
Yep.
So my kids didn't have to build the church. My kids didn't have to build Logos. My kids didn't have to build Moscow. It's like they're walking.
They're doomed.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Well,
one of the reasons why I think I have some of the desires and edge and motivations that I have is because I saw your dad lay the foundations.
Yeah.
And now I get to be part of those walls going up. And that's exciting, but also there's a lot of difficulty that goes with lifting those walls up.
Yep.
And my kids might not ever even experience those difficulties. And they're going to walk in, they're like the double trust fund kid or whatever,
If you do it right, it's harder for them. And the thing that parents do I'll back up here. One of the things you see in families is it's really, really easy when you can tell your kids no because of an external reason. So if it's, Daddy, I want a pony, and it's no, we can't afford a pony.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like literally.
We can't do it.
Yeah.
When you can afford a pony,
right,
and you're saying no, it's a different kind of wisdom and a different kind of maturity and a different level of communication to them. So when our kids went through school in an overcrowded roller rink, there's a kind of like poverty that hardens and toughens, and there's a benefit. Yes. When the kids who are going to the nice school building, there's a different set of temptations and a different set of issues. Mm-hmm. And they have to be trained in ambition. They have to be trained in building from there. This is a foothold. So I came up poor, but my grandfather spent time living in a chicken coop. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
a step up?
Yeah, a little step up. They got through some winters on pickled watermelon rinds.
Wow.
Like that was like, how are we going to stay alive? Like we better save all those rinds, and we're pickling those because we're going to be eating those in February.
Yeah, they poor. Not poor. They ain't even got enough for the OR.
When you can finish,
when you're with the
poor.
chickens, when you're with the chickens, it's down there. And so I found out that I was my grandfather told me, and I don't know how true this is, but he told me I was the first Wilson to buy a new car. And it was like, and I did it with a truck for a tax write-off in like 2013. Mm-hmm. And he's like, well, it's happened.
Mm-hmm. I was like, nervous for you.
Yeah. And it was like, it was like, better be looking out a little bit. You got a new truck. And he wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
You don't want to take that for granted. You don't want to be apathetic. You don't want to, be ungrateful. But that was, I'm that third generation where we're way more comfortable than my grandfather was. And I think that we have to continue to push, and we have to stay aggressive, and we have to hold it all in the palm of your hand, because
that's right.
LA fires can rip through.
Right.
You got it. The Lord gives, the Lord takes away. You better be ready to be faithful in the next moment, in the next scene.
Yeah.
And you better be ambitious with what you got. And the parable of the talents is very, very real.
Right.
Yep.
So
a bunch of us got 5 and 10 talents.
Given to us.
Given to us.
Yep. And and if you merge parables, a bunch of us showed up late to the vineyard,
right?
and got the 10 talents.
Yeah, and then we got the same level.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
It's like,
I showed up late, praise God. I know who I is. I ain't mad at it.
Exactly.
I'll take it.
Look at all this wine.
But the thing is, when that happens and God gives you that, when our kids get given more than we had, it's really easy for us to get scoldy. And be like scoldy about how unappreciative they are. You don't understand. You better be thankful. I didn't have a gym. I didn't have, whatever.
So how
as opposed to teaching them, you better get a return on this.
Yeah. And how do you train that? I mean, you talk about it, but I mean, how do you parent in a situation like that where you want them to build on what you've done, build on what your grandpa's done.
You buy them a pony.
You make them go sleep out in the wilderness for 3 months.
Yeah.
I'm joking, but not really.
Yeah, the thing that goes wrong is when you just give them what they want and the taste in their mouth. You don't teach them to control their urges. You don't teach them to control their appetites. You don't teach them wisdom and even controlling what they want.
Yep.
But a lot of it has to do like when they're younger, they're older, elementary school or junior high, into high school, talking through situations, making sure they're getting into situations with conflict, making sure that you are not protecting them from conflict.
Come on now.
I actually saw a big thread of pastors talking about where to send their kids to college, and 100% of them were talking about college like a safe haven.
Mm-hmm.
College is a safe haven.
Yeah.
Where's the pantry and the shelf on which I can place my child so that they will not be harmed and they will not, they can just receive positives and no negatives. Mm-hmm. And we should be pushing them into conflict. My oldest son was playing football in junior high for the public school and learned every word there is, and also asked every single kid on that team if they were a Christian. Mm-hmm. Like went through and got all those weird, all those weird conversations, all of them.
Yeah.
And putting them into those circumstances and encouraging them to get into conflict is really essential. And then also talking about getting a return on those moments. So, hey, we're doing this thing. What are you going to get out of this? Or what's the upside? What's the win here? How are you going to find the win? And the win is, it's really important that you help them and train them in defining the win. The win is not comfort. The win is not a lack of conflict. The win is what? What is the win? The win is improvement, purification, further sanctification, faithfulness, etc. It's never avoiding conflict. So when you're talking to them about their teachers, you're never talking to them about how to not upset the teacher, ever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're talking about how to be faithful, but also if that teacher is being upset and shouldn't be, you're teaching them how to write an email. Right. You're teaching them how to confront an adult who's in authority over them.
That's right.
And how to do it faithfully. I think most of my kids in a great school did that by 7th grade. They were in direct conflict with Christian teachers who were in authority over them, and trying to do it respectfully. And and we're teaching that. So how do you train that? It's like, well, life isn't about comfort.
Right.
We're doing the hard thing. We're doing the thing that kind of sucks.
It's really, really rare.
Yeah,
I'm sure you know this, but like it's very, very rare to hear parenting advice like what you just gave.
Yes.
You need to make sure that your kids are getting into conflict.
Yeah.
And for the right things.
Yeah.
And
here's the scary thing.
And so
understanding that you can't bat 1,000.
Yeah.
So if you start doing this, there will be times they get into conflict over the wrong stuff.
Right.
There will be times when they do it poorly.
Like, bad call. Okay. Yeah. Apologize for that.
Now we got to learn and
make it right.
That kind of thing. Yeah. But after Rory at Columbia had his big viral moment and the hundreds of millions of views of him standing there with against the Hamas mob, and smiling. The thing people couldn't see is all the bruises in his groin, all the violence that was happening, that people are trying to pry him off the door. Afterwards, one of the most common questions to him is, what did your parents think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, were they okay with this?
Yeah.
And it had not even occurred to him.
Right.
He's like, what do you mean? I mean, my mom was fired up. For Mother's Day, she got prints of him standing at that door, with the mom pulling at him. It's like, it was truly
proudest mom ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, my daughters are at Hillsdale. They've had to sit down with the deans.
Yeah.
They've been called in trouble.
Yeah.
And had to navigate it. And
right.
The same question. I was like, what are your parents saying?
Yeah.
And my daughter was like, oh, they said they loved us and they're proud of us.
Yeah.
Like, go.
Yeah.
Right.
It's like that kind of thing.
But you don't get there. You can't protect kids for 18 years and then you don't show up suddenly and all of a sudden
take risks
and think about
before my oldest son moved out, he was in handcuffs on the sidewalk.
Right.
Having pissed off a cop who told him to identify himself, and he said, "Isn't Idaho not a stop and identify state?" And then it's like, bam, bam.
Stupid idiot.
Down.
You can't know the law.
You're down, and his little brother, who's 14, is up against the brush guard on a cop car with a flashlight in his face, getting railed on and getting threatened by police.
And
that was That's great.
And they were ready for that because they were writing emails to their teachers in a classical Christian school.
Yeah.
And saying, I think you got this wrong. You know, can we talk about this or whatever?
Yep. Yeah. And writing to believers and good Christian teachers and saying, hey, I think you screwed up here.
Right.
Well, and obviously also just like your dad exhibiting that trait too. You being a good example to your kids how to take risk.
Yeah.
Is foundational for forming them and how to take risks.
Yeah. And how to take a loss too. How to take an L. And I actually one of the things that is the hardest thing for confident, aggressive kids that you've trained like that is to ever say I was wrong. Mm-hmm. Just I was wrong. That's just hard. That's just hard for kids in general, or us, I guess.
Humans.
So, like for my own benefit, for my own spiritual growth, I really do try to reach out to people who were right about stuff. Like it doesn't matter how insignificant it was. If they were right about stuff and I was wrong about stuff, I try to reach out and say, hey, by the way, remember that time you said that? Yeah, you were right. I whiffed on that. Yeah. Even when it doesn't matter. Yeah. And just because I need that muscle to exist, or else the confident conflict seeking will destroy and devour me.
You're going to always end up being right.
Yeah, it'll destroy me.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like I'll be destroyed because I don't have the ability to self-correct or receive correction, and you can't be that way. Yeah. So that's just really dangerous. And
do you do this differently with your boys and your girls?
No.
Same.
Okay. Same. I would say that the tone is different because they're a different character, and when they're communicating, it's different. But the fact is, if you are a son or daughter of God and you encounter something wrong, do you walk by it? Do you just move on? Or do you try to improve it? Do you pick up the trash? Do you pick the thing up? If you encounter something that is a sign of ill health, are you a white blood cell or not? Mm-hmm. And every community has a whole bunch of blood cells that are not white blood cells. There's a whole bunch of people who are conflict avoiding, trying to exist in safety, and you need those people who are going to, when they encounter an infection, are going to address it. They're going to bring it to the surface. They're going to lean in, and we're going to have this out. We're going to work through this. That is absolutely essential.
Why are Christians so conflict avoidant?
Because you lose friends, you lose relationships,
but there's also the other side, like where we're like conflict idiots.
Oh, exactly.
Right? It's like weird. It's weird. It's like we're like excited about all the wrong conflict.
Yep. Yeah. So it's really easy to blow up over distance online. To anathematize. People you don't really know, to accuse them of being lying scoundrels when you have no access to it. Yeah. That's easy. One of my experiences is some of those people who really, really will flame you. Yeah. The deal is, it's actually they have zero self-control and inhibition. It's like them on Twitter is them drunk. Okay. So socially, if you sit down with them in person, you're highly likely to have a reasonable conversation and to work through something. But over here, you have sidestepped their social inhibitors and all their self-control, and you're going to hear what they really think. Right. Over here, it's Mel Gibson drunk on the side of the road. Yeah. Over here, it's him at the Academy Awards and everything's
Have you seen that little video going around where the fence is closed and the dogs are just barking at each other? Bark, 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 bark. And the fence slowly opens and they stop barking.
Oh, hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
It's like, what's up?
I didn't know that was you. I didn't know that was you.
Yeah, exactly. It's that kind of thing. And so I do think that Christians can be extremely schismatic. They can fracture. They can fight over all sorts of things, projecting motives and so on. Yeah. Also, as a side note, if you want to know if a fight is totally pointless, it's that moment, that inflection point. This is for you, Gabe.
Thank you.
That inflection point when you're fighting about the fight. When you're now fighting about, no, this is what you think. Mm-hmm. And you're telling your opponents what they think. Mm-hmm. And not letting them say what they think. And you start to fight about the fight. No, but you said this other thing, that thing right there. And they're like, no, I didn't. And then you start fighting about that. You're not on the topic anymore. You're not working through it anymore. Mm-hmm. You just aren't. Mm-hmm. Now, there's times when you need the receipts, when people are like, I never said that. And you're like, here's the tweet. You slide it across. That's great. But you know what that's like when you start telling somebody what they think so you can attack them. And they're like, that's not what I said. Yeah. At all. So, like, if you're arguing with Catholics and you're talking about the veneration of Mary, and they're like, we do not worship Mary, And you could slide over the receipts. You can slide over the things from the popes and everything else. And so they're wrong.
You're not Catholic anymore?
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Welcome to the Protestant faith.
Come on, brother.
Which I have done often. You can do that kind of thing. So receipts are fine, but we do tend to fracture impersonally over distance. And when we're with people, in person, it's really difficult for people to have any kind of real conflict or hostility, and all the social pressures of niceness, evangelical niceness kick in, and all that self-control is there. So but that seems like then the driving force for that is like just a kind of like, I don't know, fear of man, where it's like I'm not afraid of people when it's me at my keyboard or me with my thumbs on my screen. I can't see the people, so I'm not afraid of them, and so I'm drunk, let down all inhibitions. But if I'm sitting across the table from you, oh my gosh, it's Nate. Yep. And for a lot of the guys who are doing this, it's all because they liked Batman too much when they were little. It's just the stories, they kind of, the idea of wearing a mask and running around in underwear, jumping through people's bedrooms is like, that's what they're doing on Twitter. I'm just this Anon Avenger, but when they sit down with you across from you, it's going to be a completely different person.
Clark Kent.
They're sober. Yeah. They're sober here and they're drunk there. Yeah. And I've had multiple in-person rounds of conflict where the first thing I'm trying to do is liberate the person across from me to actually express their opinion of me.
To genuinely.
And just say, like,
to be genuine.
So it's okay. Like, listen, I'm not mad. I don't need you to like me. We can admit you don't like me. That's fine. Yeah. But let's talk about the issue.
Yeah.
Let's really get to it.
Yeah.
This happened in New York publishing. It's happened in L.A. It's happened locally. It's happened all over the place where you have to say, can we not pretend here?
Yeah.
Like, can we not pretend that we're really close?
This goes back to what you were talking about earlier, though. If you raise your kids a particular way, they're already past that prep point to have conversations like this, where it's like, we already know the rules of the game is, okay, we're actually going to talk about the real issue and not try and skirt around it, right?
Right.
So if you're raising your kids like that, you've already having a step ahead of everybody else in this. And then when they meet other people like that, stuff gets done faster.
So amen. And when I'm coaching basketball, it's funny that
I was going to go there.
This is essential. This is huge. The two things, my two sports I coach, track and basketball. In track, in a fantastic community, in a great community with great families, great school. When I made membership on the 4x4 a pure meritocracy, it was stressful. It stressed people out.
Really?
But yeah, absolutely. Just raw meritocracy. Now you could think that that's not going to be the case, but it actually, you can very quickly construct scenarios when it is. Like, it's a senior. She was really fast. Now she's hurt. Whatever. There's all that stuff. And it was relatively simple when I started because we had so few athletes. Now we have a ton of athletes, and it's going to work its way out. It's going to be kind of brutal.
Yeah.
But that was kind of like
interesting,
a little bit stressful. Now on the basketball side, with my guys, I've closed practice to really tear into them. I don't want to shame them publicly. When there's people sitting there watching and it's like they need to get thrashed, I'll kick them out of the gym, close the gym. But part of that is because culturally, I want all the guys at the beginning of practice. I open it up. Anybody's got anything? Like, let's go to coaches or to each other.
Yeah.
It's like, but it doesn't leave this room. We do it eye to eye. If we have problems, we address them right here. And so players have done that. Players are stepping out, looking at another player and say, hey, what happened in that game, the third quarter? Do not ever let that happen again. Like, ever. Do not let that happen on the court.
Right.
And we work it out. And if my players in any way criticize a teammate outside of that room, they can get kicked off the team. They can get busted down to JV. They can get cut. I've cut a player for that. I've busted kids down for that.
Yep. But that's in practice. That's the online world.
Yeah.
Or in person.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
If we're gonna fight, let's fight eye to eye.
Yeah.
Let's make it clean. Be a Christian about it.
Yep.
Be faithful about it.
And be honest
about it.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to do it that way, then you don't get to be telling your friend or tweeting about it or anything else.
No. You don't get to go tell anybody else in class.
Right.
This person hears it. Nobody else hears
That's
it. They get it.
Yeah.
Only people who are part of the solution hear this stuff. And that was like, okay, this is new. like this is the age of group texts, and kids have access to each other all the time, and they can thoughtlessly say stuff, thoughtlessly complain about each other. And people think that things rise to the level of complaints, but not conversation or conflict. And so really, really quickly, they get to the complaining about each other part before they ever get to the talking to the person about it.
Actually fix it.
Yeah.
Actually fix it.
I just need you to hear this.
Yeah. And the important thing and what I'm trying to instill in these guys is that nobody's going to lose their minds. And afterwards, after these conversations, we've always been healthier and better, and they've become fewer and fewer and fewer.
Yeah.
What does this look like with 3 and 4 year olds?
3 and 4 year olds, I think probably the biggest drumbeat is just, can they look you in the eyes and say, you were right, I was wrong.
Okay.
That's one of the most important pieces of equipment. If you're going to have conversations, arguments, debates, conflict, if you don't have that, then it's not, you're a pain in the butt to other people. You are doomed as a human being. It's over.
Okay.
If you don't have that ability. And one of the things I respect the most about my father, in a long list of things, is the fact that he has a category of retractions on his blog.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Where he goes and logs his screw-ups and logs his mistakes.
Yeah.
That nobody will ever know about.
Right.
He's like, by the way, this was something, this was wrong.
Yeah.
That is incredible. That's incredible, incredibly healthy and essential for anyone who's going to be in fights.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other pastor who's online and is in fights, they all should have the I was wrong column somewhere public.
Yeah. Right.
They can start with COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they can start with COVID, but they also can.
That's the recent stuff.
Unfortunately, they can also start with all the name calling they've done of other people.
Sure.
And then when they walk it back, they don't take down tweets.
That's right.
I can't tell you how many times people have said, sorry about that. It's like, are you correcting it with the people you lied to? Are you correcting? Are you taking the tweet down? Are you doing? No, that'd be embarrassing. But it's that category of retractions and the ability to say, hey, you're right. I was wrong.
Yeah.
That right there is essential equipment, because if you're going to have conversations with them, if you're going to train them to actually push on you and question you in a healthy way, and they don't have that ability, or worse, you don't have that ability, the ability to look at a little 4-year-old and say, you know what?
I was wrong.
You're right. I did say that.
Yeah.
I did say that we would do donuts on Saturday, and we didn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go get in the car.
Yeah.
It's like,
Make this right.
we're going to make this right. If you don't have that ability, they can't trust you. You're a hypocrite.
Right.
And you need to teach them to have that ability too. And then you can get into everything else.
My kids be like, Dad, since you didn't get it right and you admit you got it wrong, your restitution don't have to be as high. Because not just got to get ice cream, we got to get cookies too, because you was wrong about that. So, I'm just saying.
I mean, they're not wrong.
I know, that's the problem.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. And I actually early lessons in parenting with my oldest. I've told this story before somewhere, but he wanted to race. He was little.
Oh yeah.
He wanted to race, and I let him win.
Yeah.
That was the last time I ever lied to one of my kids.
Yeah.
And it was just such a perfect exhibit. I didn't even think I was lying to him. I didn't think I was deceiving him. I was like, oh wow, you won. I mean, he was a blasphemy in a heartbeat. He turned around and was like, I'm faster than you. And he was 3 or something. And I kind of laugh. I'm like, not really. He's like, and then he goes, I'm faster than everybody. And I was like, not really, bud. And he's like, I'm faster than Jesus.
I just went quick.
And I was like, oh boy. I was like, get over here, line up.
All because.
And I just cooked him a whole bunch of times. And even then he was like,
I'm not sure.
He's like, I was faster than you that one time. Like, why did I lie to this kid?
Yeah.
It's like, why did I lie to this kid? And so we had to deal with the blasphemy and we addressed everything else. But I knew that was my fault. Like, I set up this little kid to stumble by just letting him run faster than me.
Yeah.
And it's that never even occurred to me. That's something I could have done. I set up a temptation for a kid and stumbled him by being dishonest about him being better than he was. So honesty about your kids' performances, like really loving honesty about when they're not doing great.
Right.
Like your affection is 100, you're absolutely on board, but you're not saying great job, good hustle when it wasn't great job and it wasn't good hustle. You're just not doing that at all. Just
And that
zero.
seems so simple, and yet something so crazy can come out of it from something so
And,
simple.
and so many parents, though, I think so many Christian parents would say, oh, that's pretty funny. No, and just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
And wouldn't realize the mistake they made.
Yeah.
The kind of scars, the kind of, way that can skew this kid's thinking.
Right.
I mean, my son, after dinner one time when he was like 3, told me that Jesus was not God and that he was God's best friend.
Yeah.
And so we went round and round for 20 minutes till he finally admitted that Jesus was God. But it was like, I look back now and like in the moment, it was kind of funny, but also no.
You think he's confused or something?
No, we're going to fix this.
It's funny, but he's also like, I'm betting my soul.
Right.
But there's so many Christian parents who would not think that was a big deal.
No.
And might even, some Christians parents probably think, Nate, you're kind of intense. Like you're kind of over the top. Like who cares if he says something silly like, I'm faster than Jesus?
Yeah.
He'll grow out of that.
Jesus does.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But it's, and you're not wrong. I am kind of intense. I can do that. But the fact is, in that moment, I'm so grateful that happened really early in my parenting with my first kid, because I was not upset at him. And I think a lot of parents, the ones who do care about what he said, would be upset at him and land on him. And I was just thinking like, wow, I just messed this up.
I screwed up.
Like I just messed this up. I just stumbled you into this. And like, how did I do that? That was ridiculous. Like, why did I do that?
I was trying to be a nice dad.
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. This is the kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing I've heard people give advice, when guys are getting married, they're like, no matter what, if she's upset, apologize. It's like, it's like poison her slowly. And
you'll get what you want.
Yeah, and ruin your relationship. Yeah. In the end, you'll both die and get out of it. It's like, it's that kind of a thing. Where I don't know what it is. It's just truly bizarre. And I know that, I love my kids. I'm thrilled with my kids. I'm happy with, where they are. But the road is long. They're just getting started. And the fact is, I've seen a lot of other kids who they don't have the Wilson DNA. They don't have the same kind of, I don't know, people could say intensity or whatever it is. But I've seen a lot of other kids do really, really well this way too in this community. Mm-hmm. Like have the courage to stand up in their way with their,
their personality
in their moments.
Yeah.
And it's really, really fun to see. It's awesome to see when they're ready. When they're actually ready, something comes and they're not sitting there kicking themselves afterwards like,
missed it.
I missed that moment.
So to kind of, sort of change topics, but not really. I went to Charlie Kirk's AmFest conference at the end of before Christmas. It was my first AmFest conference to go to. But what was amazing was, first of all, Charlie got 20,000 people to show up there.
Sure.
No one's getting those crowds except for kind of Trump. The other thing was
T-Swift.
Yeah, but not these.
There's a whole nother conversation around that.
It's the devil. The devil can get those kind of crowds.
That's a good point.
And Daily Wire gave their whole platform to it. Ben Shapiro was there. Matt Walsh was supposed to be there. He was sick. Michael Knowles was there. The Blaze. Everyone, Tucker, everyone was giving their platform to it. And I think one of the things that's going on is, okay, Trump's winning. There's a bunch of wins happening everywhere, and all these conservatives are happy about winning right now. Winning is huge, right? And so I think there's a lot of positivity at that conference.
Everybody wants to be part of the victory lap.
100%. Yeah. And then in addition to that, I do think that there was a sincerity about Christianity there. Where, Charlie was talking about Christ, Tucker, there's a bunch of Catholics up on stage talking about Christ. And I think there's a level of sincerity there. I do think Charlie has at least to me looked like he's grown in his theological conviction over the last, I've followed him since 2016 when he kind of started getting known. So I at least at this point, maybe I'm being more hopeful than the reality, but I think there's a desire for Christ in politics there in that movement. I do think it can very much turn into a Christless conservatism really quickly. Anyway, and the reason why I'm saying this is because I think what Charlie's doing is also going to take over the Republican Party in the next 40 years. It seems to me. Charlie's got all the infrastructure in the high schools, all the infrastructure at colleges, and the age of the audience was, high schoolers to 75-year-old people. So it seems like this is something we're going to have to be noticing these next, years in the conservative political movement. Now, the question was asked on stage multiple times to Tucker, to Knowles, to others. how do we fix America? How do we make America great again? How do we, and even it was asked, how do we make America Christian again? And I think the generation that's coming up was not raised well, was publicly school raised largely, even the Christian kids.
Yep.
Right? But there's still, at least to me, it was encouraging, there's still a desire for Christ in the public square. If you were, so the question was asked was, well, how do we make America Christian again? Tucker would respond with, well, we got to fix immigration, and, others respond, well, January 6th, we got to bring justice back to January 6th, stuff like that. Then I was thinking, I won't tell you my answer because I want to know, how would you be answering a generation like this? Like, how do we take back America for Christ again?
I would kind of want to call the bluff in that situation and just say that you need to absolutely commit to trying to figure out what Jesus wants and then doing it.
Uh-huh.
Just absolute commitment, whatever he wants, like with no reservations. Mm-hmm. Acknowledge his ultimate authority over your life, Charlie, Tucker, everybody who's up here.
Yeah.
And like, are you committed to working to find out what it is he wants you to do and then doing it no matter what? And the answer is no. They're not. And right now,
how do you know
that? Some of them, not all of them, but some of them could be genuine.
Yeah.
But I can tell you right now that there's a wave, and people who seek power ride waves.
Yeah.
And the most important thing to those guys is that they stay on the stage and that they stay central. They don't become irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And right now, what does the crowd want? What does the crowd want to hear? It is like when one of those guys is up on stage, if he doesn't see the crowd at all, he doesn't see them. He actually sees a king above him and is actually consciously trying to please that king. That is a very different posture than riling up 20,000 people.
Yeah.
So if all those people are like, amen, yay, hurrah, because that's what they want to hear.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's going to get them to support you. And that's what's going to enable you to stay at the head of this parade and call yourself the leader.
Yeah.
Is if you say that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But is it actually an effort to be in a relationship with Christ? Or is it at best an abstraction and a desire to stay in front of the crowd?
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's going to be a lot of genuine conversions. I think there's going to be a lot of revival among leaders and leadership. I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I think it is happening, but coming with it is all of the lip service that always happens in any Christian society where you have to say stuff like that and you don't mean it.
That's right.
So it wasn't very long ago that every single politician had to say they were a Christian.
Yes, sir.
Like, so what? Man, I'm so pumped. We're back to 2008. like that's
we're making America good again.
Yeah, in 2008, the Democratic candidates had to be believers.
Obama couldn't even say anything about gay marriage.
Yeah, because of his faith.
It was his pagan.
That's like my faith.
Yeah.
That was 2008.
Wow.
That was like the culmination of the skid. So congratulations. We're getting back to 08. That's not a great thing to really think we're there. Now, I would say God is moving. His spirit is moving.
Yeah.
Lots of things are happening. Lots of people are turning to him. Complex situations like this LA fire, these LA fires, you have a ton of people who are God is the king of trick shots.
Yep.
So you have people who are receiving blessing, you have people who are receiving judgment, you have people who are receiving grace and being called to him through this. Yep. You're going to have revivals, you're going to have apostasies,
eyes open.
Yeah, you're going to have for every single person involved there. Every single one of them has a customized narrative.
Right.
And it's going to be judgment or grace. Like it's going to be the beginning of their salvation, or it's going to be the beginning of their apostasy. Yeah. There's so much going on there. We can't just say this is that one thing. Right. And the same thing's true of the movement that's happening politically. There's a bunch of authentic conversion.
Yes.
There's a bunch of authentic rededication.
Russell Brand.
And there's a whole bunch of absolute basic religious hypocrisy that's been around since forever.
Yeah.
And that's
So do you need to go?
I got to read this ad and leave.
Okay, you go, and you can
do something.
I got some great content coming up.
Great. Good luck, Nate. Tactics Con is back and only a few weeks away. Jared Longshore, Yuri Brito, George Grant, Toby Sumter. More are coming to South Louisiana to help equip the church, sharpen swords, and spur on the spiritual reformation in the deep South. Registration is still open with only a few seats left. Sellout is anticipated again this year. So if you're in or near the Gulf South area,
Gulf of America,
don't miss out. January 24th and 25th in Lafayette, Louisiana. Go to tacticscon.com, tacticscon.
The S at the end.
.com to secure your tickets today. Thanks for being here, Nate.
Tactics with an S.
Great to see you, Toby.
Con.com. Yeah. Thanks, Toby. So
now we can have the real conversation.
I know. I was waiting for my pastor to leave.
Leaving.
In this whole fight over, let's say, Trump, there is a growing desire, which I think is good, but there's also a internal fight over it that I think is pretty dumb. But like to make America Christian again.
Sure.
That's something in 2010 or 2005, even when Bush was president, I would never have heard. Hey, we really want to make America Christian again. Now there's a lot.
We were still just acting like we were.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The residue was a little thicker.
That's right. And so there, to me, there's two major questions that I think need to be answered on all this is how do you think about and fight with co-belligerents to, take America back, make America Christian again. So there's that, but it's also even more important is how do you stay and remain orthodox in your faith to fight to make America Christian again with all these co-belligerents? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you say those are a maybe fair two questions?
Yeah, they're tough.
They're
big and they're tough questions, but they're fair. And I think that part one, I think we need to help define the terms.
Yeah.
We need to help define the conversation. What do you make America Christian again?
What do you mean?
What are you talking about?
That's right. Yeah.
Like what? When? Like what year?
Yeah.
What is the then?
What kind of Christian?
Yeah. What are we talking about? Like 1890, 1936?
I personally would like an upgrade around that era. Just saying.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like people can look at that Supreme Court case in the 1890s that said it was a Christian country. It's like, the court popped out Dred Scott around then too. It's not like, and it's not like we think that court decisions are sacred.
Yeah.
See Obergefell.
Yeah.
It's like, it's like where? I don't know where we go. I don't know where that spot is. Yeah. We can see a place where there's all this cultural Christianity, but we also, when we get to those places, we see the fissures and flaws of cultural hypocrisy that got us to where we are now.
Yeah.
So the basics are when people say make America Christian again, and they start looking at the mud puddle that we landed in face down at the bottom of a slide.
Yeah.
There's slides right here. A bunch of different groups are advocating to get up on the bottom of the slide, or you know what, we should go halfway up the slide, or we should go 3/4, or let's get all the way to the top.
Yeah.
Very few people are advocating for getting off the slide. Let's not get back on the slide because we're going to end up right here again.
Right.
So I really don't like make America Christian again.
You just want to make America Christian.
I don't see any time back there.
Yeah.
Where I'm like this one. It's like no, there's been hypocrisy and screw ups from the ratification of the Constitution onward. Like we've not. There's not a golden age where I'm like we need to return to the law. Mm-hmm. We need this moment of repentance that came right after the slaughter of everybody around the Golden
King
Castle.
Josiah, his making America, making Israel great again thing was God ended up judging him more afterwards, actually, and it wasn't Josiah's fault that God judged him more.
Yeah,
but he recovered Deuteronomy, he recovered the law, they read it, and then God.
So where we are right now is like what we need to do is just make America Christian. We'll just stop there. I don't need the again. Let's go with Mac.
Yeah, Mac. So, man, draw that out for me.
Yeah, I think can I jump in here too, because I think it goes back to what you were saying. This kind of goes into conversation we were having a little bit earlier, but when you were focused in on writing the story that's in front of you right now, I think that's still like beating in my head because everybody's at a different place, so it's going to apply differently to making America Christian differently to everybody because of what story they're in.
Yep.
And part of the thing that I'm noticing and why I don't even trust people who, in a lot of ways, that like to talk like that or the big crowds is because you can go and just have dinner with their families and you're like, you're not ready.
Yep.
Like, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Like, I live in a great Christian community. I live, my wife loves me. My kids love me. God has been so kind to me over the last 10 years. And I did something that I shouldn't have done. I listened to Nate. I went and got some dogs. So remember, you talked about this. You told Christians.
He got dogs. Yeah,
level of difficulty.
Level of difficulty. You talked about this. I think at one of the Grace agendas. You said, "Hey, be like the Father and get your kids animals."
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And at the time, I was like, "I ain't ready for that. I know I ain't ready for that." So God's blessed, and so now I went and got some dogs. I got Whippet and Chow mix with a little lab.
I think that's your problem.
And so
Whippet.
Well.
Anyway,
So I got those 2 dogs.
Okay.
I realized I wasn't ready to rule anything. I mean, all of a sudden, everything changed. I got to training dogs and then bringing them into the family and teaching them how to work with the family and with the kids and then getting food and figuring out they got diarrhea. What is going on in my house? All of a sudden, just like the race, seeing something so simple and how it brought so much confusion. I was like, wait a second. If I'm king of this house, I'm not ruling it well. And it was so convicting. It's like, okay, I got to figure out how to rule my house well because this is just with dogs.
Yep.
This is just with puppies that aren't full yet, right? And I got to figure out how to take care of them and bring them and train them to live inside of our culture. And I realized, like, if we can't do this, we can't rule anything else outside of our own homes well.
Yep. So
in a lot of ways, I kind of with you. I kind of want to call people's bluff in one sense and be like, y'all ain't ready to rule because your homes aren't together. You were talking about this the other day, and we're seeing it all over right now with ESPN and with Fox and the Fox Sports. Just being able to get people to stay married to their first wife would be amazing.
Yep. Let's start with the top of the eye chart.
Yeah, how about that?
Can we start at the top of it? So Make America Christian, what does it look like? Like
one man, one woman for life.
Yep. And it's like this moment when we have Trump up there with how many kids from how many women?
Yep.
Don Jr., bouncing around doing whatever.
Yep.
It's like we're not returning to that. And now I'm grateful that he won. I'm grateful for all the impacts, and I'm grateful for this moment in time. And yet, all the way back to that faithfulness in your own story, until we have a people, like a growing people who are all faithful in their own stories, like that is a slow build. It's a really, really slow build.
Painful one too.
Yeah, it's a painful and it's a slow build. Now, I will say, training dogs is also remarkably gratifying when it starts to work, and you're just like, oh. When you can snap and have the dogs like, oh, okay, run, get in the crate. Like, ooh, this is fun.
Yeah, you're right.
This is fun. This is great. And it's crazy though. It is absolutely crazy, and it adds to your crush, just the burden, your crush depth, and everything else. Level of difficulty goes up, especially if you're going to give dogs to kids or animals to kids at all in a way that's actually a blessing.
Yeah.
So you give it to them and you're like, oh, this just made your life worse. It made all of our lives worse. Mm-hmm. So how do I make this a blessing and take authority over it?
Yeah. That's what I was talking about, buying them a pony. I wasn't talking about to give them everything they want because they want it, but you got to show them that having a blessing actually comes with work. Yeah. And it's like a blessing brings work. You got to be up in the morning. You got to be doing this. You got to be doing that. You got to be concerned about it. You got to think ahead of this way.
100%. And so the top of the eye chart is, in this moment, will courageous Christians be preaching righteousness and morality openly and honestly to those co-belligerents?
Yeah, since they got an open door right now.
Yeah, will you be like suppressing parts of the truth for the sake of a political alliance, or will you be saying, you know what, like, you guys are idolaters, and you know what, I really am glad that you're pro-life, and I'm really thrilled you're here, and I'm grateful to march with you.
Yep.
But this is idolatry. And more than that, when you bounce over to the godless conservatism, that is the enemy. What you're doing is the enemy. That's going to get us right back in this problem all over again.
So how do you do that? Do you march with them side by side in public, and in the back room is where the conversations are happening?
Yeah. So I have a buddy who's Eastern Orthodox, who's a writer, and I've introduced him to people as my idolatrous friend.
I remember you talked about this.
And he's talked about me as his heretic friend.
Yeah.
And it's we both mean it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
It's just he's wrong.
Yeah, we both mean it, but we also both have affection, and we also both have an honest appreciation for those places of overlap.
That's right.
Where we share the common agenda, and we also understand where we're not going to be backing each other up.
Yeah,
right.
Like where
there's no question about that. We know.
I'm not riding with you on that. You're not riding with me on this.
Yeah.
And so on. Same thing with Catholics with whom I work, and then also with Mormons, where the Venn diagram gets smaller.
Yeah.
And so there's this overlap on some social issues, and they're really useful voters in Utah. But I'm not going to try to create a war room where they're in there generaling with me. They've got their room where they're generaling. We've got ours over here. Where there's alignment and where we could benefit each other, we're going to work together. And yet, like, we are very aware of our disparities, our complete disparities.
Nate, I know you got to run, but I want to finish with this. One of the things I've watched with the populist movement, we didn't have, America right now has an immigration problem.
Yep.
I think the conservative Republican movement that's kind of get infiltrated has an immigration
problem. Yep.
Yes. Everybody's been able to come in without actually having to convert. Right. RFK came in, didn't have to change anything.
Yep.
And we fully embraced them. There's a lot of people who did that. So we're gonna have a problem. But we've all come together because in this populist movement, we've all agreed on what needs to be destroyed. And so my position has kind of been, I just want us to finish the job of what we agreed to destroy, watch certain barriers so that you don't go too far and call them out as I see them, but let you do that and then be working towards making sure we can replace or deal with our immigration problem in some way in the future. And so I want to, like you said, I want to be proclaiming a very clear Christian gospel, call them out where they need to be at, but making sure they'll actually destroy the thing that we agreed to destroy so that we can actually become Christian, right?
Yeah.
Like real repentance.
And the thing the way these things work is people love they become purists. They become like overly pure and pharisaical about different things. But if you're fighting Hitler and you're thinking like, wow, we could lose this, which we could have.
You call Russia.
You got Stalin involved, who is just another devil.
Yeah.
Right.
And
we'll backstab you any minute.
Yeah. And the simple fact was like, hey, we're going to fight you in a minute.
Yeah.
And divide and conquer is actually really hilariously misunderstood. When people say divide and conquer, they usually say, hey, let's split up and go do different things. Let's divide and conquer. It's actually divide and be conquered. Divide and conquer means divide your enemy and fight them at different times, and you will triumph.
Yeah.
If you can keep your enemy from uniting, then you can fight them in like a mountain pass,
Hitler
one at
Russia.
a time. Yeah. And so like we went right into the Cold War, like immediately Berlin Wall. Like it was tension from the jump. Mm-hmm. But if we had done that sooner, if we had been in that fight sooner, we're done. It's over. And so we got this enemy, and then we got to outlast this enemy. And that's kind of what it's going to be like.
It didn't really save France, though.
So if we actually let's say that we just this thing we have all agreed needs to die. It just dies. So wokeism dies. All these false secular virtues die.
Right.
We return to freedom, meritocracy, etc. And then suddenly we're sitting here looking at a whole big swath of the conservative movement that's just godless and debauched and immoral. Like, well, okay,
here we go.
Let's go guns blazing.
Right.
Right now, we got a big monster to shoot. In a minute, we're gonna deal with you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just that way, and that's like an age-old story, right? Mm-hmm. There's plenty of times when you got an enemy in your house, and whatever, think any kind of stories, they're there, then suddenly there's a bigger enemy to both of you.
Yeah,
you're right.
And so I was like, okay, so we're not gonna fight each other right now.
Yeah.
You know it's gonna be on, but at the moment,
okay, hold up. Like we can do that in a minute, and I think that's kind of where we are with huge swaths of the conservative movement. And as Zuck and other people come in, Elon, for example, and things Elon's going to try to do are absolutely detrimental to humanity, and there's going to be a ton of things like that. Well, we'll get there.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be fighting that fight, and what we can't do is compromise our principles fundamentally.
Right.
We can acknowledge them and say, hey, we're going to fight you about this, but right now we got to take out this. This boss level monster.
It's good. And because those fights are going to be down the road, this is why you have to be really writing the stories with your family and your kids now, because some of these battles are going to be theirs.
They're going to be theirs.
They're going to be theirs, and you better have them ready to fight. That's really good, Nate. Yeah. Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much.
Always appreciate you coming on.
Yeah.
Thank
awesome.
You. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.
If you're single, getting married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politic.
I'll get my book signed right now.
I need some books.
That's what I brought them.